it's all a part of a bigger plan.
Yeah, and then
in less than 2 years, the United States has gone from the most powerful country in the world to practically a non-existent country in the world. And it's going to get worse with time. With China as the predominant supporter of Afghanistan, China doesn't need to be in favor of anything to do with Afghanistan. The fact is that Afghanistan needs somebody, and China is the somebody that is there. The United States failed to remain in Afghanistan. They were even invited to. So they're trying to destroy, there's a force trying to destroy the United States and replace it with a globalist government with which China would probably be largely in control. And it can happen, it won't take very long to do it because apparently there's no way to stop them.
Yeah, these Afghanis are coming from Afghanistan, and
well, yeah,
crazy amounts. And then the Mexicans, I mean, I work a bank.
Lots of the Afghanistanis have child brides. So they're bringing underage girls to which they're married into a country that prohibits that.
Yeah. Right. And then we have the Mexicans, half of
Not
them.
Just Mexicans, Syrians coming through Mexico. All sorts of people are coming through Mexico without any restriction, plus amazing, powerful fentanyl distributors, and the fentanyl is coming from China.
Well, yeah.
There seems to be an almost unstoppable force trying to completely destabilize the United States. That withdrawal from Afghanistan was about as bad as it gets. They had swords, and now they have Black Hawk helicopters, tanks, machine guns, everything that was simply left behind by the United States when they withdrew. The least they could do is either take it or destroy it.
Yeah, it seems like a planned event that they're doing.
Yeah.
They need a good
event.
They need a good mechanic.
Mahaprabhu is in the house.
They need a good mechanic. Haribol.
They're just being handed death machines on a platter.
Ramachandra Singh Das.
Yes, Mahaprabhu Das.
Can you change my name?
Oh, yes, Mahaprabhu, yes.
Mahaprabhu Shravanam Das.
Okay.
If you could spell it.
Mahaprabhu Shravanam Acharya Das.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Wow.
I'm moving up in rank.
You were at the top of the rank. What do you mean? Moving up the rank, you're right at.
Who's on top is on the bottom, and who's on the bottom it always ends up on top.
Yeah.
Actually, there is no bottom, there is no top. Krishna is the bottom and the top. And we're part and parcel of Krishna, who's the bottom and the top. So each jiva is the bottom and the top. We are transcendental. Bottom and top refer to the material world.
Hare Krishna.
Otherwise, there's no bottom, there's no top to anything.
I have a question, Narayan.
I am your servant. Ask the question.
In the Catholic religion, the Catholics say, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And if we surrender to Christ, then he will guide us. Is that true in Krishna consciousness? If we
it depends how you take it.
To Krishna, will he guide us, or
he is guiding us?
Guide ourselves.
Have you remembered?
Does he guide us?
What about Paramatma? Is he not guiding you?
So we are being guided by
You
our
are
faith in Krishna.
asking, you
They're
do not,
they're watching. They're watching over us. Or are we doing our own thing?
we are looking over ourselves, and Paramatma is facilitating our desires. So if we desire Krishna, Paramatma will guide us there. If we desire Maya, Paramatma will guide us there. The whole thing that we have to understand is God, Krishna is not our well-wisher. He is independent of us.
What if we wish the negative?
Negative?
If we wish the negative, he'll allow us to do that?
Allow us, he'll empower us to do that.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Empower. I mean,
it's all up to us.
Why would Krishna go against his own, the soul, you, Ramachandra, are part and parcel of Krishna, okay? Is that not so?
Everyone is part and parcel of Krishna.
Yes.
Yes. Everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. So if you desire something, who is desiring? Part and parcel of Krishna, right?
Yes. Part and parcel of
Krishna has provided in the material world and nowhere else Paramatma in the heart of every jiva, so that whatever any part and parcel of Krishna wants is never denied. You see, that puts religions as we know it on their ear. Nothing you want will ever be denied by Krishna. Do you know why? Because you're part of him, you're part and parcel of him. He would not deny himself anything. But since we're marginal and we're in material bodies, if we desire material things, he's not going to say no to his part and parcel. You have that independence. You have the right to that independence. You have the right to ask for something wonderful or something horrible. Up to you, not up to God. Certainly not up to Jesus.
Say it again. I got cut off.
It's up to you, between you and Krishna, whatever you want. As Paramatma, between you and Paramatma, you can create a spiritual life and future for yourself, or you can create a hellish one for yourself.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So essentially, karma means do unto others. Do not do unto others that which you would not have them do unto you. That's karma. If you want to avoid bad reaction, don't do something bad to others. So you want to kill an animal and eat it? You can do that. Paramatma will show you exactly how and give you all the tools to do it with. But you will have to become an animal in your next life. That's a price to pay for your desire.
And you'll be slaughtered as well.
What goes around comes around.
If we slaughter, we will be slaughtered.
Bingo.
Hare Krishna.
And why not? That's why a devotee only takes foodstuff that has been prepared for the taste of Krishna and is offered to Krishna. And only after it's offered to Krishna and time has passed so Krishna can taste and enjoy it, then the devotee eats it. It's called prasadam, or mercy of Krishna. So when you take the prasadam that has been offered to Krishna, it must be purely vegetarian, no rennet in the cheese and stuff like that. Everything must be very pure and nicely made to offer to Krishna. That's your way out of the material world. That you're sort of like giving yourself a get home free card by not eating the food of this world. If you eat the food of this world, you will end up like everybody else that does. becoming that which you eat.
Point well taken.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Jai.
Vinayaka Sharma Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Nice to see you. Nice that you've joined.
Haribol.
So, Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Prabhu. Yes.
Who is it? Who's on?
Vinayaka Prabhu.
Oh, Vinay. Okay, Haribo.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
So, Prabhu, I have a question that the symptoms of a devotee that are mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion, like steadiness, timidness, yawning, and these many nice symptoms. So, has Narnarayan Prabhu have seen these symptoms in some devotees in ISKCON? And if he has seen, then can he describe that devotee?
Ah, Ramachandra, can you translate that for me?
He's talking about the qualities of the devotees that are described in the Nectar of Devotion. Vinayaka Prabhu is saying, these qualities, who are they present in ISKCON? These qualities of...
The Nectar of Devotion is a compendium, is a compilation of ideal behaviors, ideal intelligence, ideal consciousness for the jiva. If somebody in ISKCON is able to do that, then they wouldn't be in ISKCON. They would be in Krishna Loka. We have to remember, Kanista Adhikari does not embody the instructions of the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. These things are objective. It's just like supposing that I was attacked by some people, and then they had me arrested in San Francisco in 1978. And I went to a very noble attorney for the American Civil Liberties Union named Ephraim Margolin. He was quite an elegant and erudite gentleman. And I said, what should I do? He said,
The
you don't have
sauerkraut
any,
on the bratwurst, right?
yeah, you don't have any witnesses? I said, no. I said, so all it is their word, 25 men, their word against you, right? Yes. And they beat you up, and they did. They broke several of my ribs. Yeah. But can you prove it? And I said, no. Because how can I prove it? I'm just one person there as far as the public mentality is, and the fact that they charged me with a misdemeanor crime of disturbing the peace, and by them kicking me with their steel-toed engineer boots, that I'm the bad guy. And he said, that is the way it would appear in the court of law. Then I cried out, I said, but what about justice? And he said, justice. There are two things. There's the law and there's justice. The law tries to emulate or give the impression of what justice is meant to do. But justice is an absolute. And no human being has access to a perfect understanding of justice. We say Solomon or someone like that, but no one has an absolute sense of justice. But the law tries to convey the purpose of justice, but like in my case, justice was that they should be put in jail and I should be given damages. That would be justice. But actually, they wanted to do the same thing to me. So I said, well, what should I do? He said, plead guilty, pay a fine, and it'll be the end of it. So I went to the court, pleaded guilty, paid a $50 fine, and that was the end of it. That was not justice. That was the law. So similarly, everything we do as Kanistha Adhikaris is more, we're going by the law. What is the law? 4 regulative principles. Chant Hare Krishna on beads. Read from Prabhupada's books. Take prasadam. Worship the deity. These are the different laws that Prabhupada requests or requires of initiated devotees. But where is the question of spiritual perfection? That is beyond what we're doing. We're doing the thing to eventually come to spiritual perfection, but until we reach it, we can't expect to live as though we're in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as though we're in the nectar of devotion. The nectar of devotion shows us which way to go. It's like a law book, tells you about justice, but it cannot deliver justice. It didn't, at least in my case. It was not justice for me to plead guilty and to pay a fine. If God were standing there, he would have beat those guys up and would have rewarded me. But God was not standing there. It was a court of law of human beings. And they did the best they could with what they had. So we in the Kanistha Adhikari platform have to try to aspire to the standards of the nectar of devotion. But anyone who thinks anyone in ISKCON has attained any of that is making a fool of himself to think that. And pardon me, you actually asked me that, so I withdraw that. But is preposterous. How can a person in the material world who is not a pure devotee attain that which is ascribed as belonging only to pure devotees in the nectar of devotion? There's nothing there that belongs to the Kanistha Adhikari. Some references may be there, but the actual fact is the Kanistha Adhikari is on the lowest rung of the devotional ladder. But we're on the devotional ladder, whereas everybody else in the world is not on the devotional ladder. They're on the material platform and they have no way of going up. They can only go down. All those people going in line to get a hamburger from In-N-Out Burger. I keep mentioning In-N-Out Burger because there's one not far from my place where 50, 100 cars are lined up from 5 o'clock until practically midnight to go through and get In-N-Out burgers. And what are they doing? I'm tempted to go up to them and say, oh, I see you're standing in line to become a cow and be slaughtered. Eh? That's your objective? That's why you're in line? No, I want to eat a hamburger. Yeah, but what will happen to you in your next lifetime after you've eaten hamburger after hamburger? What will happen to you? So there's no question of nectar of devotion there. This is all beyond, they have no comprehension of what lies beyond their present birth. They really don't. Basically, they think, oh, because of Jesus, I'll die and I'll go to heaven, no matter what I do. But that is not a reasonable expectation. Why would Jesus do something that would be that ridiculous? And who would give Jesus the power to do it anyhow? He was a son of God, not God. As Prabhupada is son of God, you're a son of God. Just a question of degree, of purity, of compassion, of mercy. So Jesus was compassionate and merciful, more so than the average man, but he was not God. And when you say I and the Father are one, well, I and Krishna are one. You and Krishna are one. You're part and parcel of Krishna. You're infinitesimal Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna is infinite Krishna. So infinitesimal parts and parcels of Krishna can exist completely effortlessly in the entirety or the full size, infinite nature of Krishna without difficulty. Infinitesimal means so small there's no dimension. Infinite means it's so large you cannot measure. So there's plenty of room for an infinite number of infinitesimal parts and parcels, as is the case, to be within Krishna. These are called jivas, spirit soul. But when you separate yourself from Krishna, come to the material world, then it's a big task, isn't it, to get back again, because everyone is so completely attached to their material pleasure. There's so much attached to their bodily identification. Oh, I am a man, I am a woman, I'm a demigod. They won't let go of it. And because they won't let go of it, they have to take what's coming to them in their next life. Unless they have the power of yajna or sacrifice to elevate themselves from this birth to the next, they're going to go down. Because without yajna, what have you got left is karma. If you have karma, that means you are entitled to a certain number of free lunches. But the more free lunches you take, the fewer you have left. So as you go down and down and down, as you use and use and use up all your free lunches, meaning you burn up your karma. If you started out with 100,000 karma points, at the end of this lifetime, maybe you'll only have 90,000. Or if you only had 10,000, you might have 3,000. Or you may not have any. You may have to go down to become an insect again. And people don't care. They couldn't give a damn. That's what the Krishna consciousness movement is for, is to deliver people by giving them the holy name of Krishna, because at least by hearing it once, that Shakti Vaishavatar, they, the Shakti Avatar of Radha and Krishna in the form of the holy name, they will deliver you, whether you want to be delivered or not, whether you know what deliverance is or not. But to match your being delivered, you have to then attain the consciousness of the transcendental being. And that isn't as easy. It's easy, it's very easy, but it's not easy if you don't want to. It's not easy if you like your body and you like your food, you like your job, you like your attachments, you like your alcohol, you like your meat. If you like all of those things, then you're not going to take advantage. Oh, you'll go back to Godhead, but you have to overcome all of those things first. Does it make sense?
Yes, Prabhu.
Is there any part that you would like to respond to?
Yes, Prabhu. One thing I want to ask, that I have heard from you many times that Srila Prabhupada is Shaktavesh avatar of Krishna. So
Yes.
how can we detect whether someone is a Shaktavesh avatar of Krishna?
What about the Shakti Vaishavatar?
Like, how can we detect whether someone is a Shaktavesh avatar of Krishna?
Well, find out where he comes from. If he comes from Krishna Loka, that's Shakti Vaishavatar, because Shakti Vaishavatar means descended from Krishna Loka to become Acharya in the disciplic succession. If a person is not coming from Krishna Loka, he cannot very well pretend. Right? How can a person be Shakti Vaishavatar if he does not come from Krishna Loka? Do you have an answer for that? Well, what's your answer? What is your answer? How does a person become Shakti Vaishavatar if he is not coming down from Krishna Loka?
So, Prabhu, like practically, if we see that, because Prabhupada used to say that from time immemorial we have fallen down. So, practically everyone is coming down from Krishna Loka.
Of course. Oh, but not as a avatar. He's coming down to enjoy a material body. That's coming from Krishna Loka means falling down from Krishna Loka. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone comes from Krishna Loka. You're pure spirit soul. You're not different than Krishna. But can you imagine that this is not your only body? Is this the only body you've ever taken, the one you're in right now?
No.
How many bodies have you taken since you left Krishna Loka? Would you say?
Yeah, so that
I mean,
doesn't
I'm
help.
asking, how many births do you think you've taken since you fell from Krishna Loka because you developed a desire to enjoy like Krishna? How many
Yeah, so
births? How many births?
that
In your
cannot be.
case, in your particular life, how many births have you taken since you were in Krishna Loka? And what sort of births were they?
Hundreds,
Many.
maybe
How,
thousands.
how about millions or even billions?
Okay.
Yeah.
You could have, if you came from Krishna Loka and became a germ, imagine if you approach it from a Darwinian, more or less Darwinian point of view, just think of how long it would take to come from the level of a germ, even to become a primitive human. And after you become a primitive human, just imagine there's 8,400,000 species. Prabhupada says. And each one of them is inhabited by innumerable jivas that fell from Krishna Loka. There is no such thing as one of the 8,400,000 species that did not fall from Krishna Loka. They
How do
all
we
did.
know? How do we know how far back we've gone?
We don't. You can do past life regressions. You could have a mystic, if you could find a mystic who could have the Akashic record examined for you. But even a person who can examine the Akashic record is most likely not going to be able to go back to how many births you took as a mosquito. A lot of people fall down and they don't become animals. But if you look at how many animals do you think there's 8,400,000 species. 8 million are not human animals or whatever. 400,000 are human or humanoid. From the most primitive humans, and we can see on Earth many different levels of humans based upon their consciousness and their evolution and what they've been able to do with their lives. And then there's also demigods, like the Surya from the sun planet, Sani from Venus. These are the demigods controlling those planets. So it's not as though that the universe is empty. The universe is actually packed full. Our scientists, piteously or pitifully say, oh, there's probably life on other planets. Amazing, huh? There's life on every aspect of every planet. Not just one or two species, but 8,400,000, 8 million types of species are definitely, some of the 8 million species are on every planet. They're not all everywhere. I mean, dinosaurs were here, and dinosaurs are not here. They were part of the 8 million species, types of species. So any jiva is part and parcel of Krishna. Any part and parcel of Krishna originated in Krishna Loka. Okay? You originate in the kingdom of God as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the all-inclusive source of every jiva that exists. And if you say, okay, well, what about Vishnu? There's so many innumerable Vishnu planets. There's only one Krishna Loka planet. They all expand from Krishna's brother Balaram. All those innumerable Vishnu planets expand effortlessly from Lord Baladev. And they're full of liberated souls. And anybody can fall down and become a part of one of the, and how many material universes are there? Well, when Vishnu breathes out, he breathes out through his mouth, his ears, his eyes, his skin. There's uncountable universes, not planets, not this, uncountable universes. And how big are those universes? Well, you can count the heads of each Brahma. Each universe has a Brahma who creates the environment for the jivas who deserve to be in that universe. So the Brahma in our universe has 4 heads. Famously, people know that. But some Brahmas have only 1 head, and other Brahmas are described as having hundreds of millions of heads. Can you imagine the size of a universe floating in the causal ocean that has hundreds of millions, a Brahma with hundreds of millions? How big a universe is that? And how many types of entities are on it? But they're in the same boat we are. They're not in Krishna Loka. They're in the material world. Whether it's a big universe or a little one, whether you're a demigod or whether you're an insect, it's the same deal in terms of not being in the kingdom of God with Krishna Loka. You see? Is that perfectly understandable? If not, ask a question that requires so that we can make it understandable. Hello?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu,
Well,
it was.
What part would you like to understand more?
Yeah, that part in which you were explaining that those liberated souls are perfected living beings, and
Who are?
the liberated souls in the spiritual world are perfected living beings, right?
Yes, because they have no material quality. The first thing about the material world is time. In the kingdom of God, there is no time. You say, but things happen one after another. Yes, they do. They're called pastimes. Like Krishna steals butter and gives it to monkeys. He's always stealing butter. He's always giving it to monkeys. There's no time passage. It's episodic. Each episode of Krishna steals butter in the context of that mood, then what's he going to do with it? He gives it to the monkeys. What do the monkeys do? They take it and eat it. That is not subject to time. He's always stealing butter. He's always giving it to monkeys. So in the spiritual world, there is no time. Time does not exist. In the Gita, Prabhupada says, time, Vishnu says, time I am, the destroyer of all things. Well, what is destroyed in the kingdom of God? Nothing. Everything in the kingdom of God is everlasting. Nothing is ever destroyed. Nobody dies of old age in the kingdom of God. Everyone is in their perfectional stage based upon their loving, reciprocal rasa or relationship with Krishna. Everyone in the kingdom of God is in a relationship with Krishna. So there's no time. It's not as though, oh, I did that last week. No, there is no last week. Everything's happening now in the kingdom of God. In the material world, whether you're an insect or a demigod, time is passing. How much time? It depends. Some demigods like Brahma, one day of Brahma is 6,400,000,000 years. But wait, what about his night? Oh, that's another 6,400,000,000 years. So that makes about 13 billion years for what we call 24-hour day. That's what Brahma experiences. Do you see?
Yes,
So time is relative in the material world. One day of Brahma is 13 billion years. One day in a fruit fly, his whole lifetime might be 2 days or 3 days. And a human being, humans are very anxious about how long they're going to live, aren't they? Fools. They're going to die just like a fruit fly or like a demigod. There's no difference. They're going to lose their body, but because they're part and parcel of Krishna, they want to be, and they are existing. The jiva always exists as part and parcel of Krishna. But in the body, he makes the unbelievable error of saying, I want to live in this body forever. So the baby wants to grow up, the child wants to become a man, the man wants to have all the enjoyments of manhood, then the old man wants to live comfortably, then the very old man wants to live forever because he's afraid of death. But he's eternal. The whole thing of his life from birth till death is Maya, illusion. It's simply illusion. If you want to live forever, then stop identifying with your existing material body. Begin to identify as who you are. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the soul. I have a body. I don't have a soul. I am the soul. And I have a body. And I, the soul, am eternal. And bodies come, bodies go. The body you're in right now, Prabhu, is going to die and be buried or burned or whatever happens to it. Evaporate. Whatever happens to your body, you will not die. You'll take another body. And because you'll be identifying with that body, you'll believe that that body is you. You're going to think that the next body you have is you, just as you think this body is you. Everyone looks in the mirror and says, that's me. Oh yeah, say that in your next lifetime when you're a parakeet. That's me. He looks in the mirror. It's so foolish that people are identifying with their body. Why? Aham Brahmasmi. I'm not this body. I do not have a soul. I, Narayana Das Vishwakarma. I do not have a soul. Right? Aham Brahmasmi. I am the soul. I have a body.
So Prabhu,
and what is the symptom of the soul? Consciousness is the indicator of the soul. So if you're conscious, it's not the body that's conscious. You think it is, that's foolishness. The soul is conscious in the body. And the soul is completely bewildered, thinking that it is the body. So your question or statement, what is it now?
yeah, so Prabhu, I understood that. And one thing that you said that the people in liberated stages and spiritual world, they are not having any material qualities. So my question is, if they are not having any material qualities, their bodies are not made up of matter, and they are perfect, then how do they develop materialistic qualities to enjoy and fall down? And because Krishna says that yad gatvana nivartante, so people in
Okay,
spiritual, why
how
do
do
they
they
develop?
develop? How can a perfect being in a perfect universe, in a perfect Krishna loka, develop a material desire? Is what you're asking, right?
Yeah. How
That's a
do
very good. That's an excellent question. Who is the jiva in the spiritual world? Is he part and parcel of Krishna or not?
Yes,
If he's part and parcel of Krishna, does he have the capacity of independent desire?
yes, he is.
But he uses his independent desire to serve Krishna in Krishna Loka, right? Actually, he
Yeah.
doesn't just use it to serve Krishna. It's involved in a rasa with Krishna, where Krishna and he have a reciprocal relationship of a bond that we cannot even imagine in our wildest dreams in the terms of our even as devotees, that we can't imagine our wildest dreams on planet Earth. So what happens? Supposing you have that independent consciousness, right? Supposing you're standing there under a kalpa-vriksha, a desire-fulfilling tree, or chintamani stones in the wall or in the ground, and as there are everywhere, so you can't really avoid being under them. Supposing the thought crosses your mind, what if I were the object of worship? Krishna can say I, and I worship him because he says I, and I am his servant. What if I could say I, and people were worshiping me? What would happen to you?
So, yes, Prabhu, but if such kind of thoughts are coming in someone's mind, then he is not a perfect person, and that is not a spiritual world.
No. He is a perfect person, but he has a quality which is never taken away from him. What is that quality that's never taken away? Which separates us from stupidity in terms of religion. What is the quality that we never lose in the kingdom of in being in Krishna Loka?
That's freedom.
Yes, free will. Are you part and parcel of Krishna? I'm asking.
Yeah.
Does that mean that does Krishna have free will?
Yeah.
If you're part and parcel of Krishna, do you exist as his part and parcel with or without free will?
Yeah.
So if you have free will, what is the meaning of free or freedom? What does free mean?
That I can desire anything I like.
Yes. So suppose you like to be the recipient of other, suppose you just get this whimsical desire, what would it like to be, Krishna? You can do that, can you?
Yeah, but I read in one of the books.
Are you saying
Yeah,
that's a flaw, or is it the secret of perfection?
Yeah, that's the secret of perfection.
It's the secret of perfection because once you come back to Krishna Loka, the whole material experience that's subject to maybe hundreds of millions of births that you've had already and may have into the future, those births seem like a flash because time doesn't exist in the spiritual world. So many births for so many hours for some and so many days, so many kalpas for other births, those births will disappear in a flash when you come back to Krishna Loka and you want to once again be Krishna's unalloyed servant. But Krishna will never take away your power. Does Krishna have the power to disagree with you?
Yeah, he has power to disagree with me because he has got a free will.
He's the supreme, his will is the supreme will. If he wants to disagree with you, why wouldn't he? What force can stop Krishna? His will. Nothing, right? Krishna's will is supreme. Therefore, if you have a will that is infinitesimal part of Krishna's will, is it not the same quality as Krishna's will, but in an infinitesimal quantity?
Yeah, there is quality.
It's the same thing, it's just a difference of size, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, you are Krishna, but not a very big example of Krishna. Each jiva, you, me, everyone, we are all Krishna. Achyuta Veda Veda Tattva means simultaneously one as Krishna and different. One with Krishna means we have all the qualities that Krishna has, but not all, but for the sake of argument, let's say all the most important ones we have the same as Krishna, but we're different. So Achinta Veda Veda Tattva means one and different. And what is the difference? Well, the biggest difference is size. Krishna is so infinite that he can contain us and everyone else that is a jiva, right? Is there any limit to the number of jivas that Krishna can contain?
No.
Okay, he's infinite, but how big are we? How big are you? What's your actual size as a jiva?
Yeah, from a spiritual point of view, like we are atomic.
Atomic is huge by comparison. And atom can even be seen under a microscope if you have a bright microscope. No, not atomic. We are infinitesimal. We are infinitely small parts of Krishna. Infinitely small, not just small. We're not small. We're infinitely the opposite of infinite. We're infinitesimal. Infinitely.
How do we become bigger?
We don't.
We stay infinitesimal.
Yes. By nature. But if you become in a rasa with Krishna, he adjusts himself, and you, supposing, as we say, you're fanning Krishna as a Kanistha on the upper level, and you become Madhyamadikari, then you become Uttamadikari, you may be Krishna's friend of the same height as Krishna, or you may be a younger one, smaller, or you may be older, bigger, but that's between you and Krishna in the terms of your rasa or relationship. So the relationship determines what size you appear to be, but your nature is infinitesimal. You don't seem to be infinitesimal when you're standing next to Krishna and you're serving him, because he accepts you in terms of your service, not in terms of your size.
Hare Krishna.
You see? This is about as profound as profundity gets. If any scientist were to listen to what I'm saying right now, they would solve all the problems they've ever thought science was setting out to solve, just by what I'm saying right now. Because this is what Prabhupada has clarified, what the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam clarifies, is that the infinitesimal jiva becomes equal in size to Krishna. Now, what about Mother Yasoda? Wouldn't you say that Mother Yasoda nursing baby Krishna on her breast is bigger than Krishna? Would you say? Well, if you've seen pictures of Mother Yasoda, they should look bigger or smaller than Krishna. Give me a good answer.
Yeah, she is bigger than Krishna in those pictures.
Yes. Does that mean that she's not a jiva? No, she's a jiva in a reciprocal relationship with Krishna, where she is by her desire become larger than Krishna, and Krishna becomes a little baby in her arms, drinking her custom designed Krishna nourishing milk from her breast. Prabhupada said something rather both profound and amusing. He said, everyone wants to become equal to God. You know, everyone says, oh, you joined my yoga, you'll become God. You know, they say, the rascals.
So
And yet, Prabhupada said, but we do not want to become equal to God. He said, devotee can become greater than a God, like Mother Yasoda or Nanda Maharaj. He's big, adult, he's a baby. Nanda Maharaj is his infinitesimal part and parcel, bigger than Krishna. Why? That's their relationship. That's the nature of their rasa, of the way they interrelate voluntarily. Nanda Maharaj wants to be God's father, wants to be Krishna's father. Krishna is seduced to become his father, to accept Nanda Maharaj as his father. Yamunacharya said, people are worshiping the universal form, they're worshiping Vishnu, they're worshiping all these big, powerful forms of Krishna. He said, but I, for one, I worship Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father. I worship Nanda Maharaj because he is so great that he has made the supreme personality of Godhead, who is the universal form, who is creator of everything, who is manifested, who is in charge of Krishna. He's making that supreme personality of Godhead, and his power is so great of love that he has made him crawl in the dust of his courtyard, Nanda Maharaj's courtyard in Vrindavan, as a baby in his courtyard. He has made the Supreme Lord crawl. Through what? By bhakti, by pure unalloyed love of God. And that's nothing whatsoever to do with physical force or physical size. It's reciprocal. It's called rasa. Krishna wants to be a baby in the presence of a father. If Nanda Maharaj's desire to be father is so huge that Krishna is seduced to become the baby. He is attracted, he's enrolled in becoming Nanda Maharaj's baby. He's enrolled in drinking milk from Mother Yasoda's breast. Special milk, I guarantee it. He is enrolled, seduced, attracted, because rasa means reciprocal relationship with Krishna. That's why these fools who think they can become Kanistha Adhikari and a few years later they can become big shot initiating guru type of person, how can they imagine what is their rasa with Krishna? Where can they see that? How can they come up? This is simply rascal. But let's say they're godbrothers, say, or mine. Say they're not rascal, they're simply foolishly ignorant. They're acting foolishly, just like a child can play with fire. They don't know they're going to get burned. So these guys become guru, on whose authority? A totalitarian GBC that's meant to be elected. Not only they're not elected, now they can appoint gurus. How can they do that? Who gives them the authority to, first of all, not be elected, and second of all, to appoint anyone to be a guru? And how can a guru be appointed anyhow when the guru by its very nature is self-manifested? So that you see the rascaldom. But let's say not rascal, let's say foolishly bewildered by Maya. Even though acting, because the Kanistha Adhikari is still under the control of Maya. It's just that the devotee is protected from falling into the material pool by following the regulated principles, worshiping the deity, taking Krishna Prasadam, chanting Hare Krishna, Prabhupada melodies, dancing Prabhupada's Swami step, which isolates the heart, and the mridanga establishes the strength of character of the devotee. The kartals snap open the bounds, the binding, what do you call them? The heart is bound up with steel bands. The kartal cuts through the steel bands. And when the devotee, even a person who's never heard Hare Krishna before, hears that, you'll find him standing there. His heart opens and tears flood down his face. No hopping around, no Bollywood kirtan, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, nothing like that. The melodies of Prabhupada chanted, and the sound of the kartal as he played it, not clashing to destroy your ears, not the mridanga sounding like a bunch of idiots on the beach in Bengal somewhere, of a bunch of stone drunken sahajas. Not like that. probably that isolates the jiva. And then the kartals break open the shackles on the jiva's heart. The dancing of the Swami stuff, if you think about it, what part of which chakra is being isolated when you dance the Swami stuff? Is it not the heart chakra? Which chakra is being moved back and forth? You're moving around. You're not moving the heart. You're moving around the heart chakra. And that is the purpose of kirtan, as taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not as taught by a bunch of about a bunch of sahajas in Bengal that we imitated starting around 1970. So, is there any part that you would want to know more, or that with which I said something that you disagree? If you disagree, please disagree and give me your proof of disagreement.
Yes, Prabhu, like there is like the explanation that you give are very nice, and one point just I remember in Prabhupada's book, like Prabhupada gave an statement that when we identify with this material body, then we develop a tendency to dominate over material nature or to have material desires. So in spiritual world there is no matter or no material body, so there is no point of identifying with any material body. Then how do they develop these material desires?
By the desire to be the recipient rather than the servant. There's bhakti. You want someone to worship you. You don't want to worship. You want to be in charge. You can't be in charge in Krishna Loka. That exclusively belongs to Krishna. But you can be in charge in your present body in India. Right? You are in charge of your body. Right?
Yeah.
You got it because you wanted it. The question is, will you have a good body in your next lifetime or not have a good body in your next lifetime?
Yeah.
You see? The question is, can you accept the Shakti Vaishavatar in the form of the holy name of Krishna? My personal view, and it's substantiated by Lord Chaitanya himself, is if you accept that holy name, that avatar of the holy name, Radha and Krishna in the form of the holy name, and you distribute it and make it available to everyone, instead of trying to worry about your own silly salvation and your own greedy desire to go back to Krishna Loka, giving up those material greedy desires, just selflessly distribute the holy name to every jiva, not just humans, to plants, to flowers, to animals, everywhere. The more you distribute the holy name, the more you will become a servant of Krishna rather than an attempted beneficiary of Krishna's mercy.
Do we get to choose our own form?
Well, it depends on what our form is. Yes, in a sense you can, because the more you become a pure devotee, the more you'll take a human birth in a family of devotees. You'll take a higher birth, in other words. But you can't choose to be an alligator or a chimpanzee. You don't choose the birth, you choose your actions that lead to the birth.
Got it.
Right?
Right.
So is there any further question there? I mean, do you see it? I mean, otherwise, I could say anyone who, you see, in ISKCON, everyone. Have you ever met anyone in ISKCON that was not in their body consciousness? They did not speak, act, and think as though they were their body? The Kanistadakari always sees himself as his body. We teach Aham Brahmasmi. But I can go up to devotees in any temple and say, Prabhu, do you have a soul? To a devotee's been there 40 years. Do you have a soul? Oh, yes, Prabhu, I have a soul. I've done this. And then I said, I do not have a soul. Prabhu, Narayana, Vishwakarma, you're famous, you're in all these memory tapes. You were serving Prabhupada directly. You don't have a soul. How can you say that? Have you become an atheist? I say, no. I am the soul, and I have a body. Then they look at me as like I punched them in the face. But why did they say they had a soul if they didn't want to get punched in the face? Now in Los Angeles, I did that 10 times a day. I'd get people to say, yes, I have a soul. Now I say, do you have a soul? People look at me sort of funny. And then they roll their eyes up a little bit and said, no, I am the soul. They'd like to say they have a soul. They probably say it to each other, but they don't dare say it to me.
What about the mind? We have a mind?
The mind?
Yes,
the
sir.
mind is like your female servant. It belongs it's a material quality, the mind is. When they say earth, fire, water, air, ether. Ether is the astral plane. Okay, well, earth, fire, water, air is where birds fly and airplanes fly. Ether, that's the astral plane where psychics work. Mind, and they work with the mind. Mind is another material element above ether. Intelligence is a material element above the mind. And then ego is the final material element. And ego means, in Greek, literally, ego means self. So the sense of self, but what sort of self? Oh, your material self. But inside the universe, there are 10 layers. Each layer is 10 times thicker than the last one. And here we are inside the universe. Then we go to a layer of earth, and then fire, air, water, air, mind, intelligence, and ego. Each one is 10 times thicker than the last. So when you get to the level of ego, that's the last stage that the Buddhist tries to penetrate to get past ego. If you study Buddhism, you know what I mean. Buddhist studies to get past ego to get to Satori, which is that dividing line between the edge of the material universe and the Brahman, or the spiritual atmosphere in which the spiritual planets are floating. Okay?
So now I know that what I need to answer when you ask that, Prabhu.
So what do you want to say?
When someone asks me that, do you have a soul? So now I know that what I need to answer.
What are you going to answer?
Yeah, that I am the soul.
No, what do you say? You have to say, no, I don't have a soul, right? So
Yeah.
try it. And say, Prabhu, do you have a soul? Now answer me.
No, I don't have a soul.
Oh, are you an atheist?
No, I'm not an atheist, but I am the soul.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Body.
Krishna.
I am the soul, and I have a body. And then what you can say about the soul that really will devastate them is that when they ask you that, they say, consciousness is Prabhupada's exact words, consciousness is the indicator of the soul.
Yeah.
Consciousness is the indicator of the soul. So if you're conscious, do you know a single dog that doesn't aware that he's conscious? Right? If you step on his tail or his toe, he'll scream, right?
Yeah.
Because he's conscious, right?
If
you go up to a bird and you hit it with a small stick, won't it go, ah? Why? Because it's conscious, right?
Yeah.
But the bird thinks I'm conscious as a bird. The dog thinks I'm a conscious dog. You think you're a conscious human.
Yeah.
What if consciousness has nothing to do with your body? Frightening thought, no? We assume consciousness comes with the body. The scientists tell us this consciousness is a product of the body. But what if consciousness is not a product of the body? Supposing consciousness is an indicator of the soul. Who is the supreme consciousness? Could I ask you?
Supreme consciousness is Krishna.
Ah, yes. And if he is the supreme consciousness, who is the infinitesimal consciousness?
That's the jiva.
Yeah, that's you, right?
Yeah.
You, the jiva, not you, the person that looks at themselves in the mirror when they shave. Right?
Mhm.
So if you're the infinitesimal consciousness, consciousness is the indicator of the soul, means if the soul is there, it is consciousness. Because God is conscious, you're conscious. We're infinitesimal part of a conscious being, the supreme conscious being. Just because we're infinitesimal doesn't mean we're not infinitesimally conscious. Right? So you have to wed the idea of I am the soul, and I am the soul. I don't have a soul, I am the soul. I am the conscious soul. Aham Brahmasmi means I am the Brahman, or the consciousness of the soul. I am the conscious soul.
We have a question by one Prabhu here. Prabhu, can you introduce yourself? Pavan.
Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavata Pranam Prabhu.
Jai.
Narayan Prabhu, Hare
Hi.
Krishna. Singh Prabhu.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to show
Hare Krishna, Dandavata Pranam. All glories to Salvador. Hare Krishna. So I'm Pavan. So my full name is Pavan Krishna Balagan. So I'm from Andhra Pradesh, Prabhu, South India. I'm
Hare
staying in
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna. So yeah, I have been practicing Krishna consciousness, I think, for the past 7-8 years.
Jai.
Yeah. So I have a doubt, Prabhuji. So can I go ahead and ask?
Yes, ask please, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Okay, Prabhu. Actually, yeah. So
You have the
I'm very much.
floor. Say what you like, or ask what you like, or speak what you like.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, actually, I have a desire to study systematically. Okay, the scriptures wrote by Prabhupada, dedicatedly for a couple of years or 3 years, to have that strong and deep understanding of scriptures later, which also will be useful for me in preaching. But I found that I am associated with Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON, Bangalore Group of Temple. But there is, there's no provision there for anything as such.
One
But
second,
whereas,
Prabhu. I
Yes,
think
Prabhu.
I'm going to have to ask, because I'm hearing impaired. I need to ask Ramachandra to more or less translate what you said so that I can understand what you said.
Okay,
And
Prabhu. Yes,
so
I'll translate.
let's go piece by piece. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. So can you translate that, Prabhu, or shall I finish off Singh, Prabhu?
Yes, please finish off, then I can ask. So you were asking about ISKCON Bangalore. He's asking something
No.
about.
I'm asking about. See, I have a desire to study like 2 to 3 years of dedicated philosophical books, like how Prabhupada have told us to do Bhakti Sastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, and things like that. It means a Vedic university for Vedic studies kind of model. I mean, there are many as such for ISKCON, Bhaktivedanta Vidyapeeth or Mayapur Institute, Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education, things like that. But among Ritvik groups, there is nothing as such. So, first thing is, can I associate with them to study? Because I already completed once BG, CCA, and SSB. But still, I feel that I need to spend more time to study and internalize that and have a more deeper understanding of the scriptures. I don't know whether it is correct or not. Also, that okay, is that fine? Because I feel like 21 years I studied uselessly all material education, and it has no way connected to what I'm doing, what I'm earning. But why not? Why can't we study Prabhupada books in a good environment where we can able to have this kind of systematic curriculum kind of syllabus and then read and then try to apply and also because normally if we take other devotees it will take at least 15-16 years while doing services and parallel reading. Rather than that, if we can uh, read dedicatedly in a dham along with association of devotees for 2 to 3 years, that will give a solid foundation for our preaching and teaching. So
Ramachandra, this gentleman is wonderful. He's speaking beautifully. Unfortunately, can you tell me what he's saying? As he speaks.
Sorry for my slang, Prabhu. Actually, this is the Indian slang of English. Sorry for that.
so Bhavan Prabhu has been studying Srila Prabhupada's books for 7 or 8 years, and then he wants to systematically come in an environment where he can study the books with devotees while doing some service. So he's asking about in ISKCON, they have these different educational facilities, Mayapur Institute, this and that. But in the Ritvik camp, do they have something like that, Pavan Prabhu?
No, Prabhu. They don't have, and they don't encourage also because they will say service we have to do, and there is a very less group, right? So that's actually budding. So they will be.
Are you talking about Madhu Pandit?
No, Prabhu. Actually, I'm talking about the model, educational model, where we can get. Is that fine? Shall we can take up those institutes?
Well, I believe Madhu Pandit has got plenty of opportunity to study Srila Prabhupada's books. And he's right there in Bangalore, like yourself.
Yes, Prabhu. Singh Prabhu, can you convey actually? So I
don't think Narayan Prabhu knows. Narayan Prabhu doesn't know anything about ISKCON Bangalore's curriculum.
No, it's not about ISKCON Bangalore. There's no curriculum.
Which ISKCON Bangalore are we talking about? The Bombay ISKCON Bangalore or the Madhu Pandit Akshaya Patra ISKCON Bangalore?
So before going to that, Singh Prabhu, my doubt is that fine a devotee can endeavor to study as such dedicatedly for 2 to 3 years in a good ambience rather than just serving and like stretching for 15 years to complete Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah, where in the Akshaya Patra temple?
Sure.
So look, the first thing to understand is one second. The first thing to understand is Prabhupada's books stand alone. There never is, never will be, and never was a reason to edit them for the simple reason they are perfect as he produced them. They're perfect in and of themselves. The changing of them has something to do with a rebellion against Prabhupada's teaching. Therefore, read the original books, and if you want, find people who want to join with you. Surely, out of millions and millions of people on this earth, you can find a few people that would like to sit down with you on a regular basis and read Prabhupada's original unchanged books. The books don't need explanation. They're self-explanatory. If you are by yourself on an island somewhere with no other human beings, and a box full of books came up on the shore, and you started reading them, you don't need anyone to explain it to you. Prabhupada that's what the books are. They're the explanation. If people say you need a teacher or guru to explain to you, they have not got a sufficient brain substance to understand that Prabhupada's books are self-explanatory. That's what they're for. But the books, you start with the Upanishad, teaches you God exists, you teach the introduction to the Gita, that this Gita is spoken by Krishna or God, not by Jesus, not by Abraham or Muhammad or something like that, but by Krishna himself. Then the Srimad Bhagavatam tells you everything about God. So if you study Srimad Bhagavatam from from before birth, appearance state, up until he leaves the planet, gopis, coward boys, looked over that hill, all these pastimes are there. And then if you want to worship Krishna, read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can do it by yourself, it's fine. Because if you read Prabhupada's books, you're not reading them by yourself. If you read Prabhupada's books, it's not like an ordinary book. If you read Prabhupada's books, you're reading it with Srila Prabhupada. If the book is not changed, then it's 100% Srila Prabhupada. If it's changed, it's Srila Prabhupada mixed with Jayadvaita. But the thing is that just stick with the original books, they're available. Akshaya Patros distributes millions of them. And just sit down with the books and read them. You'll be having good association. When you sit down alone with a book, who will you be associating with, may I ask you? Or you're by yourself
associating with Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, you'll be associating with Srila Prabhupada, because he designed his books so that you would be associating with him. He's a Shaktivish avatar. He's an acharya, the last acharya for the golden age of Kali, because we don't need any more. Prabhupada's books are the next. You want a guru past Prabhupada? Good. Go buy one. It's called a book. Buy the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the acharya beyond Prabhupada. You want to go beyond that? Get the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's a book beyond Prabhupada. No, it isn't. It's Prabhupada as beyond Prabhupada. But you don't need anything else. Do you need Diksha? Only if you want to become a pujari. But if you want to become a servant of Krishna, you don't require Diksha. Give your heart to Prabhupada. That is Diksha. If you want to become Diksha, go to a temple and say, please, give me Diksha as Prabhupada disciple. End of story. That you can do in Bangalore easily. You can do it a lot of other places. You can do it by yourself. You can be your own Diksha Guru if you want, meaning that you give yourself to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada will guide you. When you take Diksha, Prabhupada guides you, and he takes on your karma. If you take Diksha from some ordinary man who is functioning as a priest in the ISKCON movement as an ISKCON, so-called ISKCON Guru, you take on his karma, he takes on your karma. When he dies, and then you die, you go to wherever he went. Well, doesn't his giving Diksha connect me with Prabhupada? Not entirely. You connect him with him. If you want to connect with Prabhupada, then take Diksha from Prabhupada. Why would you take Diksha from Mr. B when you want to take Diksha from Mr. A? You take Diksha from Prabhupada, you've taken Diksha from Prabhupada. He doesn't have to be personally present. Why? Because he is personally present. Prabhupada said, ISKCON is my body. Prabhupada's body is not a material body, it's a spiritual body. It appeared to be material, but that's because of our eyes, not because of the substance of his body. Pastemius. It was all due to his pastimes. So to get it straight, if you say you want to join a group to study Prabhupada's books, you can go to the Bangalore Akshaya Patra temple, or you can find people that want to do it. Just go online and say, I'm looking for people in Bangalore who want to study Prabhupada's books with me. Let's sit down once a week in somebody's house in front of their deity, or in front of a picture of Krishna, a picture of Prabhupada. Let's sit down together and read Prabhupada's books, and then have Istagosthi, have discussion of what Prabhupada is saying. And that is as good as reading all by yourself, And in some ways, it's better than reading all by yourself. But in essence, it's the same as reading all by yourself. Because Prabhupada is Prabhupada, whether it's a group or whether you're alone. The thing to remember is you don't need anyone to instruct you in Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada's books are the instruction. He wrote them so that karmis, ordinary men, could buy them. Why do you think we're selling them all over the world to ordinary people? Because if that ordinary person picks up the book and starts reading it, he will understand Krishna from Prabhupada. Now that it says, oh, now that you've read this book, now find an ISKCON guru and he will make you understand Prabhupada, understand the Bhagavatam. Not necessary. Don't need to do that.
Okay, but what's your opinion on these degrees, Prabhu? Bhakti Sastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, these degrees after Ms. Prabhupada incorporated this system, right? So who to study and then get a degree, and like he also quoted that, okay, instead of MA, PhD,
Yeah,
you should
well,
write Bhakti Sastri.
yes. If you are living in an ISKCON temple, do you know what is a Kanista Adhikari, Prabhu? You've heard the term
Yes, Prabhu,
Kanista
yeah.
Adhikari? Kanista
Yes,
means there's 3 levels, right? Kanista,
Yeah.
Madhyam, and Uttama. Prabhupada
Yes,
is an Uttama Adhikari. Everyone in ISKCON, whether he thinks he's a guru or not, is a Kanista Adhikari. The Madhyam Adhikari is so distinctively advanced that you would see him a million miles away if there were one anywhere around. In my view, basically people who are ISKCON devotees are, if they live in the temple and they're doing everything according to the morning program, the deity worship, taking prasadam, following the 4 regulated principles. But if devotees are living in communities, many of them are not even Kanista Adhikaris, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
They may be eating in restaurants. They may smoke a little ganja. Who knows what they're doing? So the basic idea is if you're in a temple, if the temple is following nicely and everything is being done according to Prabhupada's standard, then you are a Kanista Adhikari. Kanista Adhikari means you're not going to take a non-human birth in your next life. If you break on Kanista Adhikari and do something really horrible, then you could take a non-birth. But you can't murder when you're a Kanista Adhikari. You can't take drugs. You can't gamble. You can't have illicit sex. And you take only Krishna prasadam and you worship the deity and you chant Hare Krishna on your beads, 16 rounds. If you do all the things that Prabhupada prescribed for initiation, then you are a Kanista Adhikari. How do you become higher than that? It's when you want to become in your original relationship with Krishna. But so far, in my life in ISKCON, I was initiated September 20th, 1968. So far, I have not met anyone that wants to become an Uttama Adhikari. I've never met anyone that even wants to become a Madhyama Adhikari. They are all very satisfied with their refined bodily state of life. What is the Kanista Adhikari? It's body consciousness. But you're purifying your body. You're not transcending it. If you were transcending your body, then you could start becoming a Madhyama Adhikari. But the Kanista Adhikari is floating like a magical planet or like a magical landmass above the material energy. So whoever is a member of ISKCON is, no matter if ISKCON is doing everything properly or not, and if they're Kanista Adhikaris, it's obvious they're going to do so many things that are not right, that are not perfect, that are not authorized. The attempt is to do things properly. The attempt is to do things according to Prabhupada's instruction. But they've made bylaws in Mayapur with the GBC against Prabhupada's instruction. Well, does that completely stop them? No, it just simply weakens them. Prabhupada is the only strength within ISKCON. The only strength, right? And if they want to say GBC is stronger than Prabhupada, which the GBC has actually said, and ISKCON gurus that the GBC appoints are stronger than Prabhupada, that is a mistake. But it doesn't mean that if you chant Hare Krishna, worship the deity, and take prasadam, that you're going to fall down into the material world. You're already delivered by becoming a Kinistadikari. The question is, when will you not only be delivered, but finally come to your senses and say, everything Prabhupada taught was perfect. Everything that has been added or subtracted from what Prabhupada taught must be eradicated. And we must go back to and sustain for the next 9,000 whatever, 500 years. We have to sustain Prabhupada's standard because there's not going to be a better standard anywhere down the line. Whatever standard Prabhupada gave us, that is the standard we must maintain till the end of the golden age of Kali. Therefore, this meeting is called the League, meeting of the League. It's an Istagosthi. League actually means Istagosthi. The League for the 10,000 years of the golden age of Kali. We're pioneers here. We don't care what other people say. We are planning out what Prabhupada said and pointing out how to implement it now and how ISKCON can revive itself, not just in many numbers and opulences and money, but how to revive itself spiritually so that we can have not just a few thousand temples, but 100 million temples all around the world. But that can only happen when Prabhupada is followed impeccably and the GBC is elected, not totalitarian. Okay?
Yes, Prabhu. So, yeah, that's a very nice understanding for me because, if whoever is following Prabhupada sincerely, so we need to go and associate with them rather than just being attracted to some other educational model as such, where there are no spirit of Prabhupada, which actually are not even in Madhyama level. Right, Prabhu?
Well, people associate with the temple. If you join an ISKCON temple, unfortunately, they are all offering you second-class initiation. But if you join an ISKCON temple, you're associating with like-minded people, right? They all wear the same saffron dhoti and kurta, or white kurta and dhoti. They are all wearing tilak. They're all having chanting beads in their hands. And they're all believe the same teacher, Prabhupada. They are all reading from the same books by Prabhupada. See, Chapavi. Not some other writer, not some other yogi, but just Prabhupada. So when you're there, that is very good association. And you can become purified very quickly in that atmosphere. But that depends on following Prabhupada perfectly. So our goal must be to bring ISKCON back to the point, or up to the point, since it's never been there to begin with, bring ISKCON up to the point where absolute obedience of Srila Prabhupada's every instruction is the standard, not the past. Oh, Prabhupada said that then, but we say this now. Well, no, that's atheism. We have to say, Prabhupada said that, it was then, it was in between, and it is now the same. The instructions on the Prabhupada's lips are not subject to time. They're not subject to being changed over time. You see, people are trying to do that. People are trying to produce so many deviations. But Prabhupada's instructions are from the spiritual world. And this Krishna Loka is not subject to time. So why should Prabhupada's instructions be subject to time? Right?
Absolutely, Prabhu. Yeah.
So we have to, the League for 10K, 10,000 years, is to restore, or not even restore, it's never been there, create the reality that Prabhupada's consciousness through his books, his consciousness through his instructions, his consciousness through the way he set up ISKCON himself, not the way people have set it up when he's conveniently out of the scene, when that these things are the standard for the next 10,000 years. That is, if we want to go back to Godhead. I mean, if you want to accept something which is deviating from Prabhupada, then your going back to Godhead will be deviated also. How are you going to go back to Godhead if they tell you to do something that Prabhupada said not to do? No, you have to, the least you can do, Prabhupada was not very difficult to follow. All you need to do is follow Prabhupada and you'll go back to Godhead. But if you follow people and tell you not to follow Prabhupada, or tell people say you should read Prabhupada's changed books, and you can answer, why should I read Prabhupada's changed books? Prabhupada's books are perfect to begin with. They're perfect to begin with. There's nothing to add or subtract or change. How can you change something from perfect except by making it less perfect? You see? So if you can accept that, that's good. And by the way, Ramachandra Prabhu,
Yes.
I'd like to mention, or maybe you'd like to mention, that this Istagosthi means jiva to jiva conversation, right?
Yes.
It's not like when you're in a temple and there's a temple commander and the temple president, you have to follow this guy. This guy's taking you out in the Sankirtan van. You have to sit where he tells you, all that stuff. No, this is equals. You can be a sannyasi and you can be walk in the door for the first time with no knowledge of what is Krishna, and you sit down in this group, same, equal. So in this atmosphere of equality, we need to speak as spirit soul. So I'm inviting everyone, how do you speak as spirit soul when I'm thinking on my body? And everybody is, we all are. We're all acting as though we're our body, right? So, and we're trying to figure things out in our body, how to understand the soul. Well, that's not how it works. You need to start from the soul, and then the body goes away on its own. It becomes what it is, a vehicle for you to drive around in, not you driving the soul. So anyhow, so when you come up to that, we have to say, how will I understand how to speak as spirit soul? And I invite you to do what Prabhupada said to do, what he did, I should say. Make me dance like a puppet. He's saying to Paramatma, beg Paramatma to do the talking in this meeting, this Istagosthi, any Istagosthi, but in this one in particular, pray to Krishna. Before you open your mouth, pray to Krishna, please give me the words to say that are your words, not my confused words of the material world. Let me speak your words. I don't want to speak my words, which are my misunderstandings. I don't want to speak my own misunderstandings anymore. Let's speak your words. And you may say, that's ridiculous. How can I tell Krishna to do that? Well, if you tell Krishna that you want to have this idea, you want this car, you want these clothes, and he obliges, so why can't you ask him to speak? Unless you don't want him to speak, or you don't mind asking him for a car, you don't mind asking him for a school to go to, you don't ask him for a wife or a husband, but you don't want to ask him to speak. That sounds suspicious to me. What is it about Krishna speaking that you don't want? Ask him. he obliges everything else you want. He figures out where your socks are and your keys are. And you figured out the name of your grandmother when you forgot it. He remembers all these things for you. Why not say, okay, you speak through me. Make my tongue, make me a puppet. Make my tongue open, mouth open and shut, click, click, click. Let my hands go, wah, 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 waggling in the air. And you do the speaking and you do the dancing. I will be passive, you will be active. Please.
Okay, try.
Does that make sense?
Yes. There's a couple of questions before we end, maybe another 10 minutes. So there's a question by Pavan. He's asking, I would like to read more. I would like to read more time than sir. Came to know that Srila Prabhupada told not to read more than 2 hours, whereas I'm inclined to read more than that. Is there any instruction for this demarcation of much to me? We do service and read? I don't know, his question doesn't make sense. It seems like he's saying he wants to read more. And then...
Yes, but that's an easy explanation for that. And it comes out of the 1960s and 70s. Because sometimes a devotee would think, why should I wash dishes? Why should I mop the floor? I just want to sit in the temple and read all day long. And so Prabhupada said, no, read no more than 2 hours and do other service too. Not that everyone will become your servant and feed you so that you can read all day long.
Okay. Makes sense.
That's exactly what he meant, because I was there when he said things like that.
Okay.
And when he wrote things like that. So it said you can. Now, if you're not living in a temple, and if you have a fixed income that will support you, you don't have to earn money, you don't have to support your wife and children, or your parents that are aged, then sit there and read 18 hours a day and sleep 4. There's no harm. You can read as much as you want, but try to comprehend what you're reading, not just read just for the sake of reading.
Right.
There's no virtue in reading. There's nothing to be gained by reading. There is something to be gained by understanding Krishna consciousness philosophy by reading. Okay.
The next question was, another question was here on the YouTube. It's saying, Hare Krishna, my question, what is the reason for fall down of some disciples of Srila Prabhupada? Is it because they did not follow the Ritvik initiation?
Well, do you want to answer that? Because certainly people fell down before Prabhupada was still here. So Ramachandra, why don't you answer the question? It's a good question. And you're a good, intelligent man to answer it.
Well, if you study the history of Srila Prabhupada's movement, Srila Prabhupada did certain things to do damage control where people were not following his orders. So he wrote documents like the Direction of Management, and then he instructed his disciples to follow these things, which they did not do. And even when they did not follow this instruction, Srila Prabhupada was very tolerant in that, he didn't tell them to get lost, but how would you say, he still somehow or other tolerated their not following his orders.
But there's another side of this question, I think the General Prabhu is asking. And that other side of the question is, how come somebody comes, takes Diksha, does service for some years, and then leaves? Is it because the ISKCON did not accept the Ritvik initiation concept, is what he said. And I would add to what you said, which is perfectly excellent, but I would add, in many cases, in some cases, it might have been because people didn't accept the Ritvik instruction that Prabhupada would continue to be the initiator, and that people were funneled off to worship people that were 2 steps beyond them, if that, in terms of spiritual advancement. But the actual fact is people fell down because they became tempted by Maya. If a person is coming along and he was taking drugs, he was having sex life with ladies and he was eating meat, he can, or taking intoxication, he can do this, give it up for a long time. But if he gets some strong impulse, sometimes the impulse is that he goes home for Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner in America, and they want to say, oh, you just take one bite of this turkey, it won't hurt you any, and it'll make you one of our family once again. And he does, and then he falls down and he starts eating turkeys all the time. We have to be careful not to associate with people that will cause us to break the regulated principles. And the only way to leave the movement really is to break the regulated principles or to disagree with Prabhupada's philosophy, which sometimes happens. And how do they do that? Well, they go to some other guru and hear the other guru say something against Prabhupada. Then they come and say, I think I agree with the other guru. I don't agree with Prabhupada. That's a fall down. So that's why people fall down for different reasons, but mostly out of temptation for one reason or another. Either their memory of smoking pot overwhelms them, or they hang out with people that they used to smoke pot with, and then now they're smoking, they get caught up in it again. And once they start smoking pot, the consciousness clicks. Now they're a pot smoker, they're no longer a devotee. To be a devotee, you have to be consciously observant and pure and austere. If you break that austerity, then you begin to identify with the other side of the coin. Anyhow, I didn't mean to interrupt you that much, Ramachandra. Go ahead, complete what you were saying.
Oh, yes. So there's another question by Moses Singleton. He's watching on YouTube. He asked a question. How do we address the sinister movement within ISKCON that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhu A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami spoke about before his departure?
Oh, there's a sinners. This goes back to my time of activity within the movement, of course. Yes, there's a sinister movement within our society. We had no idea of what he was talking about. But the actual fact is that all these people that became temple presidents and
Hare
leaders
Krishna.
and hello?
Yes.
They became temple presidents and leaders and Sankirtan leaders. They became puffed up. Tamal Krishna at one time said to Srila Prabhupada, I don't have to do what you're saying. And Prabhupada said, why not? He says, because I have more followers than you do with Radha Damodar Sankirtan. Now, how can you speak to your spiritual master like that? And then later on, go on to fancy yourself to be a successor guru. But that we're not going to successor guru. We're just talking about the sinister movement within the society. One time that Prabhupada was talking about this stuff with some of his senior members, and then a devotee in Los Angeles, and then a party of devotees came by, chanting Prabhupada's melodies, playing Prabhupada's Mridanga beat, playing kartals, dancing in ecstasy. And he said, please do not let them know what is happening here, what is going on behind the scenes. Because it was just really a material plot to control the movement. But these devotees were doing what Prabhupada had asked them to do, which is to chant, dance, and take prasadam. That's Lord Chaitanya. They were doing the right thing, but their leaders were scheming behind the back, thinking we could control this instead of Prabhupada. Or we could do this our own way. So when he said it's a sinister movement within our, he said there's a sinister movement within our society. Those are these exact words. Well, that's what it was. And you can see what it turned into. Turned into the GBC not being elected and appointing gurus who are not from Krishna Loka. Not that they would know what one looked like if they saw him. They did see one, Prabhupada, and they decided to go over Prabhupada's head. That means they could not understand Prabhupada's actual status as coming from Krishna Loka. But Narottam Das Thakur says, Hare Krishna comes straight from Krishna Loka. But with chanting, I have no connection. Day and night, I'm burning in this dark world without working to make the correction. Those are Prabhupada's exact translation of the song of Narottam Das Thakur. So Krishna, Hare Krishna comes straight from Krishna Loka. So when we heard from Prabhupada, it came straight from Krishna Loka. Now you can say, well, it didn't come from Lord Chaitanya. Well, where did Lord Chaitanya come from? He's Krishna and Radha in one person, giving the Sankirtan sound vibration to the Sampradaya, Thakur Bhaktivinoda, Gorkishore Das Babaji, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Prabhupada. When Prabhupada chanted, it's Lord Chaitanya chanting. That's straight from Krishna Loka. But these people, rascals, they think, oh, Prabhupada is just an old man from India. That is their mistake. But we can capitalize on that and make us young people become gurus. That's their mistake. And it hasn't worked out very well. And the people who became gurus, like Sat Swarup and a bunch of others, are now saying, well, I guess, what was the guy, Hare Krishna? Well, they're beginning to admit they were not really gurus. They just took on the role because they were appointed by ISKCON to be done that, but that wasn't even true. ISKCON never appointed anybody to be gurus.
Yeah, Bhakti Charu said, I've been appointed by ISKCON, and if ISKCON tells me to stop initiating, I have to stop initiating.
But when you Bhakti Charu joined the movement, Prabhupada was on his deathbed, literally.
Yeah.
ISKCON had not ordered him to become a guru. When he became a guru, that was because of the original 11 gurus, largely because they were falling down.
Yeah. Yes.
They needed replacement gurus that had not yet fallen down.
Yeah, like this Giriraj, Bhakti Charu, Bhakti Sarup Damodar, Bir Krishna, Jaya Dvaita, they were the second round of initiator Kanishtadakari gurus.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyways, we have come to an end. So I would like to thank all the devotees joining online. We had like 10 viewers online. And
Hi.
Yeah. So
may I ask a favor of these 10 devotees? I want to ask them a favor. May I? You're the chairman. May I ask them?
Yes, yes.
Please accept my most humble obeisances, Prabhus. I worship your lotus feet. And if you can accept that from me, you're doing me the favor that I'm asking for. And Ramachandra, could you one more time talk about Paramatma, the speaking from Paramatma in the Istagosthi? Not perfectly, we're not perfect, but as best we can, asking and hoping that he does speak through us. Can you do that right now?
Yes, for this Istagosthi, we'd like to request everyone to speak from the level of the soul, forgetting this body. And
Paramatma
guide you.
So Paramatma, yes. Just say, let the soul be quiet. Let Paramatma speak. In the Gita, it's the elsewhere way. There's a passive bird, Paramatma. There's the active bird, the soul. Prabhupada wrote the Bhagavad Gita as it is, translated, and purports reverse that by saying, Paramatma, you be the active bird and speak. I, the jiva, will be the passive bird and act in your behalf.
Jai.
Okay?
And there's some devotees watching. They wanted to talk about something else, which I've told them, hey, you guys come on Zoom and we'll have a conversation. Moses Prabhu asked about...
You're welcome.
Excuse me.
If it is one person can come, 1,000,000 people can come. We will accommodate you.
Hare Krishna.
And everyone's voice will be heard, particularly if they're speaking from the spiritual platform, which means they have begged Paramatma, you speak through me. I want my voice to be your voice so that we can become enlightened and enlighten others.
Jai. Okay. So Moses Singleton Prabhu, please join the WhatsApp group. It's in the description. And then next meeting we're going to have on Saturday and Sunday. We're running on California time. We start about 7:45, 8 p.m. California time. Or if you like to get in contact with us, we can certainly talk to you about the issues that you have mentioned about Srila Prabhupada being poisoned, this and that. We have discussed this before, but we can.
And we could also set up special Zoom calls if there's a topic that a group of people want to discuss.
Yes, that's also a option. So just join the WhatsApp group, and then we'll take it from there. We'll set up a special time for you to ask questions, and we can have a discussion on that basis. Jai.
Yes.
Thank you very
Sure.
much.
But let this expand. We want this influence to touch everyone. We want the ISKCON initiators to have tears in their eyes saying, thank you for saving us from trying to save people when we cannot even save ourselves. We cannot save ourselves, but thank you for saving us from trying to save others. You're all saved already by hearing the holy name. Now let's go out and save the population. Not that you come to me, who have no qualification to save people, to become your savior. Not necessary.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
So Mahaprabhu, last concluding words from yourself, Mahaprabhu Acharya, Shravanacharya.
Haribol. Hare Krishna. Thank you for letting me in. Thank you for engaging me in some fantastic conversation and some true transformation. No, transcendental.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Mahaprabhu, you are, Shravanacharya, you are like the center pole of the tent because you came in without a background in Bhakti Yoga, and you have become, your interest has become so strong that it's gone past the disillusionment and disappointment and whatnot that so many of us have experienced, because for you, everything's new, and you've given us new life. I want to thank you and offer you my obeisances.
Jai,
Thank you. How are we doing? Thank
Okay,
you.
Prabhus, thank you
you.
very much. We'll have another conversation, Zoom Istagosthi meeting on Saturday, then on Sunday. Please join us.
Also, Prabhu, ask people to submit a request if there's other days of the week that they would think everybody would be better off with on Saturday and Sunday. Wednesday, what about Monday, Wednesday, Friday? What about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? You know, it could be any days.
Yes.
Why don't we figure out what's best for the general schedule of everyone?
Yes.
Not that they have to sacrifice anything in order to come to the Zoom call.
Yeah, that sounds good. So they can post in our WhatsApp group what time they would like to have the meetings, and we'll accommodate around their schedule.
Well, we'll accommodate, we'll have a discussion around it to make sure it works for the majority of people.
Yeah. So we can have that on the WhatsApp group, and then from there we can have a special meeting for these devotees who want to talk about these subject matters, which they have very great interest in.
Jai.
Okay.
And we could increase. We were very busy, so we cut it down from 7 days a week to 3, but we could increase to 4, but it means that we have to have the time ourselves, because we're sort of, Ramachandra is the chairman of the board, and I'm his servant, the commentator and helper. So that's what my role is. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare
Jai
Bol.
Prabhus. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Prabhus. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys on Saturday and Sundays.